Hello and welcome to the new episode of Access Denied. Today we are going to talk about two initiatives in the heart of the city of Calcutta and how these initiatives are bringing diagnostics very cheap, much closer to the people, especially the poor and the marginalized. And there is one personality which is involved with both these initiatives, Dr. Fuad Halim. Thank you, Doctor, for joining us today. So one initiative is the People's Relief Committee, which traces its origin in pre-independence era since 1943, and the other initiative which is providing cheaper dialysis facility to the people. That is a relatively newer initiative of yours. So let's talk about the dialysis facility first. Why dialysis is so important that you thought it calls for a standalone facility, and how is the infrastructure and everything, if you can tell us?
Well, primarily dialysis is a treatment modality which actually gives you an equivalent life expectancy as a normal person, but it needs to be done regularly. A patient of kidney failure should be adequately dialyzed. If the patient is a single disease, a single organ patient having just kidney failure, then we can add on very easily lifespan equivalent to a normal human being. The problem in India is that the poor and the marginalized cannot afford adequate dialysis. That means the correct dosage of dialysis, the correct number of times that they need to be dialyzed, and that leads to multiple problems. Number one, it leads to a reduction in their life expectancy, and number two, the interdialysis period between two dialysis, the quality of life is very, very poor. So they are gasping for breath, they are lying down at home. They are not only a problem for themselves, but they are also a problem for their entire environment, their family and everything. So we chose dialysis because effective good dialysis can add on to quality and add on to life expectancy of the patient. And definitely the underlying focus is to ensure that people who can't afford it get it scientifically, and they can actually impact their quality of life and the quality of the life of their entire family.
So, what is the cost of dialysis normally, say in a city like Calcutta, in hospitals, even if not corporate hospitals, but private hospitals?
In private hospitals, from the lower end, you could start off with a dialysis costing about anywhere between 1400 rupees to 1600 rupees, and if you go to the high end corporate type of hospitals, then it can go up to about 3500 rupees per dialysis. That I'm talking of for basic dialysis. There are different types of dialysis and different varieties of dialysis. I'm just talking the basic dialysis that a person requires, and we call it maintenance hemodialysis, and you do not require too many add-ons in terms of delivering the dialysis. That would vary from a normal, what you call, hospital, the lower end between 1400 and to a higher end corporate hospital going up to 3500.
So, if a patient needs dialysis twice or sometimes thrice a week, which means it would, even at the lower end, would cost something like 4200 at least a week for three, and otherwise 2800 for twice a week. Okay, that's a lot. How much do you charge for dialysis in your
At the
clinic?
moment, we are charging 100 rupees for the maintenance hemodialysis, and during the entire COVID period, we done it for 50 rupees,
100
approximately.
rupees, you
Yeah.
said. So people can actually get dialysis for 200 to 300 rupees compared to 2800 to 4200 rupees.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. And I think that it speaks a lot what can be actually done if you want people to access dialysis. How have you been able to bring this price down? That will be the key
Well,
question.
basically, three principles we based ourselves upon. Number one is that we have removed the hospitality from the hospital. For example, we don't have a large waiting area.
Hospitality from the hospital.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
So
How do you
we
explain that?
so we are a no frills infrastructure. We don't have any waiting area. We don't have a reception. We do not have air conditioning in our unit, and we cut costs in terms of keeping our focus primarily on dialysis for the very, very poor and marginalized who need to spend some money which can be reduced for them so that they can spend it over a very long period of time. So somebody who is, say, about 30 years old, if he or she has a single organ problem like kidney failure, and all the other organs are okay. In that case, if they are adequately dialyzed, then they'll have to take dialysis for 20-25 years for the rest of their lives. So they need to ensure that they keep on spending whatever money they have over that period of time, and they can earn, they can be economically what you call functional in society. So to ensure that, what we have done is that we have cut out hospitality from the hospital. No frills we offer, we just offer good dialysis, good quality dialysis, so that they can achieve their target of having a good quality of life, be economically viable, and have a good what you call interdialysis, what you call quality of life. So that's the first principle. For example, we don't have any laundry costs. So when a patient comes in, we give them two sheets, bed sheets, and they wash it at home. They bring it to our unit, that is spread on the bed. Dialysis is given and is wrapped up and again given to them. They go back and wash it and bring it back the next time they come.
How much cost would this reduce?
So an average what you call laundry cost for a bed sheet and a pillow cover would be about 70 rupees. So that
Okay.
that is cut out from the cost.
Straight cut off.
So, and
Yeah.
the family gets involved in what you call delivering. We don't have a lift in our unit. So a patient who is staying, say, on the second floor, the way the patient is brought down by his family members at home is the way that the patient is again taken up and brought down from our unit. There's no extra staff that is there. For example, we are a standalone unit. If you are a dialysis unit working with in a multi-speciality 500-bedded hospital, then you'd have a medical superintendent, you'll have a director of services, you would have somebody who would be looking after the
Human
company
resources, so
secretary.
much of.
So all these people
Yeah.
would have to have their salaries justified for each unit, each episode of dialysis that you're giving to the patient. So because we are a standalone unit, we don't have those additional overheads, and because we are a large unit, we have 10 dialysis machines, so we get great economy of scale. So we factor all these things in terms of our first principle. The second principle that we have is that most of the people who supply us our consumable and our what you call requirements, they are somehow connected with the organization leadership.
Okay.
So compared to the
Your organization's name is
Kolkata Swasth Sankalp.
Kolkata Swasth Sankalp.
So our organization now, because they're basically old school friends of mine, we grew up together, we did our schooling together, and then we'd gone to different parts of the world, exploring our what you call career trajectories. And after many years, we came back together and we wanted to do something with society, so we have come together. So all our school friends plus the suppliers, most of them are very well known to us, give us a very good what you call rate in terms of the consumables and the equipment and the what you call fixed assets that we need to purchase for running the dialysis unit at very competitive rates. And because we get it at very competitive rates, we ensure that that is translated to the patient, and the patient gets a good advantage in terms of cost as far as giving dialysis. And the third principle that we have is that we have a large donor pool that ensures that even though the minimum cost we incur for delivering dialysis, that to a great extent is subsidized and the patient gets to pay only 100 rupees for a dialysis. Our donors are very satisfied because with the same cost, they would not get a patient dialyzed anywhere else. So
How much is the cost then? Per dialysis to you, how much does
for,
it cost?
for us, it varies between 900 to 950 rupees, and depending upon the dollar rate, because most of our consumables come from abroad, and our donors contribute that difference that we incur. So whatever we charge from the patient, that is 100 rupees from dialysis, the additional amount that is there, that is recovered from donors. And we have a huge pool of well-wishers, and they ensure that we are adequately what we call funded. And we started off in 2008 at 600 rupees per dialysis. We went down to 550, then to 500, 450, 400, and before COVID, we were doing it for 350 rupees. And during the first lockdown, we converted to 50 rupees per dialysis, and now we are doing it at 100 rupees.
So when the costs have actually been increasing for diagnostics for everyone, you've been able to actually bring it down in real terms money. I think this would be, I think, the only example ever that one could have heard of. But this also brings me to the question, when you said the first point is where, because it is a standalone dialysis unit, therefore the cost can be brought down. But do you think this model can be used where one actually requires proper hospitalization and hospital? I mean, there's a reason why there are dialysis facilities in big hospitals also, and those costs will come. Is that necessary, or how do you look at it, and
There
what
are two
can
things you have
be
to keep in
done?
mind. The
Yeah,
first thing is the immense load of chronic renal failure patients in India. The number of patients is humongous. That cannot be catered to by only dialysis units that are associated with super specialty hospitals. On the other hand, one of the major problems of chronic renal failure patients is access to dialysis. So if they don't have the dialysis unit near their home, they have a serious challenge, because you have to understand that a patient getting dialyzed twice a week or thrice a week is spending his or her life, almost one third of it, in the dialysis unit. A dialysis unit is almost like a second home for our patients. They are so
right.
frequently in and out of it, and they plan their entire what you call week
According to
according to
that.
their requirement to come into the dialysis unit. So we need to have standalone dialysis unit everywhere in India. There are problems and challenges for standalone dialysis units, but if you want to increase access to patients with chronic renal failure, then you need to have dialysis unit near the homes of patients, or at least reasonably situated, so patients don't have to travel the entire day to reach a dialysis unit. So fundamentally for India, this question was raised in the early 2000, first half of 2010s, that's between 2000 2004, and the government recognized that standalone dialysis units are essential, because without it, access is going to be seriously challenged. We are now looking at even home dialysis. Patients with peritoneal dialysis globally, they take dialysis at home, so that has its challenges, but in spite of the challenges, the benefits far outweigh, because patient doesn't have to come to hospital, doesn't have to go back, so you don't have to plan for transport, you don't have to plan for people accompanying them. And peritoneal dialysis, we need a certain fair degree of education, because sterility is important of that. So in European countries, we are seeing that peritoneal dialysis is being preferred in comparison to in-house hemodialysis. But in India, it's difficult for poor people, because they don't have a separate room,
Sanitation,
they don't have
hygiene,
hygiene, all these
all
things
of
are there.
that.
So for them, hemodialysis is still the preferred method, but access to hemodialysis unit has to increase in India, and the only way ahead is standalone dialysis.
Do we have more models like this? Are you aware of in Calcutta or elsewhere?
There are a number of standalone dialysis units. The Rotary
But the
runs one,
cheaper ones. So,
cheaper one.
okay.
Rotary runs a charitable
Okay.
unit. There are some hospitals like the Sri Jain Charitable Trust. They also unit. The JN Rai unit is also there. They also run a low cost
They're all in
dialysis,
Calcutta?
or in Calcutta, or surrounding Calcutta,
Okay.
in the surrounding districts that are there. In the northeast also, there are some units which are planning to open out, but up there getting consumables is a huge challenge, and there is a huge cost, because dialysis is a very consumable intensive process. So you require jars of fluid, you require water to be prepared, you need tubing that is used after every 5 or 6 dialysis. So a large volume of consumables have to be transported. So the northeast is seriously challenged. The hilly areas are seriously challenged because of these problems.
This is inspiring, and looks like it is a scalable model at the end of the day, because things can be done to bring the prices down. You're doing it, some others are doing it too. But I also think it comes from the long experience of your association with People's Relief Committee, which was established in 1943 when Japan was bombing Calcutta and there was a widespread famine, and that's when PRC was established. And one of the focus was low cost diagnostics, which we also saw during COVID with PRC. I think all of you were very active, and to provide the non COVID healthcare, which had become absolutely inexistent in most of the parts of not just India but the world. So, if you can tell us a little about the history of PRC and its relationship to cheaper diagnostics.
Well, the PRC
Something, yeah.
was conceptualized in the late 30s, and primarily Bengal used to be impacted by floods and cyclones, and because of this, there used to be a Bengal flood and cyclone relief fund. Well-meaning people, they used to come together, and annually they used to put together a fund, and they used to provide relief, because the British administration was not keen on providing relief to the poor people, marginalized people during natural calamities. So that disparity, the attitude of the British government to the
Which
common citizen.
continues. We
Yeah,
face the same
the white sahib
issues.
is gone, the brown sahib is come.
Yes.
So that continues, and that gave rise to this idea that rather than having an annual fund, if we could have a permanent organization. So that crystallized on 29 September 1943 at the Indian Association Hall, when a number of people came together and formed the organization called People's Relief Committee. And we are into our 82nd year, and our primary focus is to provide relief during various natural calamities and other calamities that take place. Our very historical role in the 1971 war, where a huge number of refugees came in from Bangladesh, and on the appeal of Comrade Jyoti Basu, that time Dr. Lakshmi Saigal came down and spent quite some time along with the PRC, leading the PRC in providing relief to the refugees that had come from across the border. At the same time, providing relief and services to the freedom fighters in Bangladesh who used to get injured across the border, come over, get treated over here, and then go back again and join the fight liberation war of Bangladesh. And through these what you call responses, there was also an effort to set up a hospital, to set up diagnostics on a sustained continued basis. And we had our clinics that used to run from various places that we people allowed us to set up a PRC unit. And we concretized that in the late 60s by having a permanent address on BB Ganguly Street, from where a continued service in terms of providing free medical advice, and a small laboratory came up of there. And prior to independence, we had many units. We had units in Bangladesh. We used to run a children's hospitals in Chittagong. But post independence, there was a serious repression by the government of the day, and the PRC had to work clandestinely many a time. And despite those challenges, we set up our units.
Okay,
The
but
people,
all these units are still working,
these are all functional units. These are,
and throughout they
they've
have
they've been they've
existed
they've been they've been
slowly
waxing and
come up.
waning, but at the moment these units are functional.
Okay, so who were all these doctors, and I'm sure technicians who were managing laboratories and all, to establish so many of them under one umbrella?
We function in a very decentralized way, and they've ensured that the people have given land, people have given their resources, people have given their time, doctors have come across, health workers have come across, the medical sales representative unions and their members have been a pillar of support in ensuring that we get medicines on a regular basis to supply to the patients. And definitely we built up a team of technicians who work across these organizations to help the diagnostics run. And diagnostics have now become very important tool in actually delivering healthcare. And affordability of diagnostics, along with affordability to medicines, are playing a very important
Yeah,
role in
what
actually,
medicine to say comes from
yeah,
what you get diagnosed with,
yeah,
which also has to be accessible.
accessible.
Yes.
So we've got X-ray units which are running across these units. We've got ECG, what you call services that we provide. Blood tests and routine pathological investigations are conducted across a number of what you call units across West Bengal. And the underlying factors to ensure that the poor person is able to get good quality diagnostics at affordable and cheap rates.
So that's what. How does that happen? If you can give a couple of examples of maybe ECG, which is otherwise costly and very important.
So what happens is with ECG is that you require ECG machine that needs to be purchased. You need somebody who is adequately talented or skilled enough to do an ECG, and then you need to get that reported. Now in this loop, if we need an ECG machine at any part of our organization, we ensure that somebody donates it to us. We make a request, we make an appeal. There are many well-meaning people who come across and they ensure that a donation or adequate amount of funds are given. Secondly, we require to pay technicians as per the market rates. That we ensure as a principle that all our technicians, some of them are volunteers, some of them are full-time workers, so they get adequately paid so that the market rate is paid to them. They need to have their own lives. The diagnosis of the ECG generally whatever the doctor takes in a commercial unit. In our what you call case, we ensure that is done at a very reasonable rate. So the doctor, in comparison to the market charges of reporting an ECG, charges us very nominally, and that is then transferred to the patient.
So again, in terms of comparison, what would this be?
So an ECG for in our unit would cost 150 rupees.
Okay.
And that would be an instant ECG, because one of the things that we have realized is that if the patient has to come a second time to collect a report, then it adds on cost to him. And
Right.
most of our patients come from the district. So if we do an ECG now and we give him a report tomorrow, he'll have to come in from the district again tomorrow to collect it. So for example, our ECG, our reporting is done within 15 minutes. It's an online system. So it saves him cost in terms of coming a second time.
So instant ECG report is
Yeah,
possible.
yeah, it's
Uh,
possible.
uh, because usually one has to
We
go
send
back
it
again.
on,
Even I
no, we send it
do
online,
it. Yeah.
and that's reported immediately, and that comes in back to us, and within 15 to 20 minutes the report is generated and handed over the patient immediately. But the system that we are developing at this point of time in PRC is that we would like maybe in another couple of months to make our reporting online, so that patients don't have to come back to us. If they have a phone or they have access to a smartphone, then we can deliver the report to the districts, because coming for the districts involves a huge cost, an entire day's work, an
And
entire
loss of work for a day,
lunch also,
loss of wage.
cost of lunch also you have to
Yes.
factor in, because if he
Wow.
comes into the city and go back, then he'll have to have lunch here. So all these things add to costs in terms of access. So we are trying to work on that. Hopefully next 2 or 3 months we'll be sorting that out. But the limitations that it will be have to have a smartphone. That might be a problem at the patient's end, but that's something that we can't sort out. But now more or less smartphones are accessible even in rural areas.
So this is not only thinking in terms of reducing the cost of the diagnostics, but also the other costs incurred by the patient, which I think the health movement in general has been asking for such a long time. So I think this brings me just to my last query in a sense. Do you think these kind of models and this kind of pricing for diagnostics is scalable across India? Because what we keep hearing is that if you want a state of the art diagnostics, and this is always the claim by the big companies and who are in the diagnostics market, without that a very good quality healthcare is not possible. Is that true? Do we always need that? Or the way we have debate like generic medicines versus branded medicines, do we have something similar even in the field of diagnostics? Can there be DIY diagnostics or cheaper
See, for me,
available?
quality has always been an amorphous entity. The reason why it's amorphous is that if you can have very good quality medical care, but if somebody can't access it, for that quality has zero value to that person. I always believe that quality should always be married to the reality of the person who actually needs that service, and quality should not be something that becomes a barrier to him accessing that service. So, the only quality that can be good, quote unquote, is the quality that a poor person can access. Otherwise, anything that's bad quality is something that he cannot access. So, anything that makes access to medicine, diagnostics, healthcare, medicines, and everything in its, if you take the whole bouquet of thing, I think so. The quality question is should be varied according to. If somebody has a lot of money and they have confidence in certain amount of criteria that they would consider quality, definitely they welcome. But to impose that on the general population of India and say that either you do this or you don't get anything at all, I think so is the most unfortunate way in approaching the question of quality.
So take hospitality out of hospital and don't make quality a do or die situation, but provide access to everyone to dialysis and diagnostics. This was very enriching, and thank you so much for being with us and sharing your experience with us.
Thank you, Jyotsna. It was a pleasure being speaking to you on this program, and I wish this endeavor all its success in the future. Thank you.
Thank you.